Have you ever felt the need to explain yourself to someone who was never going to understand you? You sit there, pouring out your thoughts, justifying your choices, hoping they'll see your side, but deep down, you already know the truth. They don't care. They don't want to understand. They just want to keep you trapped, doubting yourself, explaining, justifying, defending, over and over again. If this sounds familiar, keep watching, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why you need to stop explaining yourself to people who thrive on misunderstanding you. And when you do, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Freedom. The hidden cost of seeking approval. Why do we feel the need to explain ourselves? It's not just a habit, it's psychological conditioning. Since childhood, we've been taught to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, society. We've been wired to believe that if we explain ourselves enough, people will see our worth, accept us, and respect us. But that's a lie. The people who truly value you don't need endless explanations. And the people who demand them, they don't care about understanding you. They care about controlling you. Every time you explain yourself to the wrong person, you give them power. You invite them to judge you, to dissect your words, to twist your intentions. You're not having a conversation, you're submitting yourself to an invisible court where they are the judge and you're on trial for simply being who you are. Why some people will never understand you. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. Some people don't misunderstand you by accident, they do it on purpose. They thrive on making you second-guess yourself. They feed on your self-doubt. They pretend to be confused, not because they are, but because if you're always explaining yourself, you're always defensive. And if you're always defensive, you're easy to manipulate. These people will ask you why you're different. They'll question your choices. They'll make you feel like you owe them an explanation for your dreams, your boundaries, your growth. But no matter how much you explain, they will never accept the answer, because their goal isn't clarity, it's control. When explaining becomes a trap, every time you over-explain yourself, you send a message not to them but to yourself. You tell your subconscious mind that their approval matters more than your peace. You tell yourself that your truth isn't strong enough to stand on its own. And here's the real danger. The more you explain, the more you believe you need to. It becomes a cycle. You start defending things that never needed defending in the first place. You start questioning decisions that were already right for you, and before you know it, you're exhausted, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But ask yourself, who gave them the right to demand an explanation? Who decided that they were worthy of judging your life? The answer is simple. They did. The moment you started explaining yourself, you handed them that power. And now it's time to take it back. The power of choosing silence. Imagine what would happen if you stopped explaining. If you simply lived your truth without justification. At first, people will resist. They'll push harder, trying to force you into the old pattern. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you cold, distant, arrogant, but that's not true. What's happening is simple. You've become untouchable. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you stop being controlled. You stop bending under pressure. You stop seeking approval from people who were never meant to validate you in the first place. And that's where real freedom begins. Final thought before moving forward. The weight of seeking approval is heavy. It keeps you small, trapped in endless explanations. But the moment you put it down, you'll feel something powerful. Liberation. So if you've ever felt drained by constantly explaining yourself, stay with me. Because this is just the beginning. The deeper we go, the more you'll realize that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. And by the end of this video, you won't just understand it, you'll feel it. Some people don't ask questions to understand. They ask to interrogate, to poke holes in your confidence, to make you feel small. You've felt it before, that moment when you start explaining yourself, thinking you're having an honest conversation, only to realize they're twisting your words, picking apart your decisions, making you doubt what you already knew was right. Here's the truth. Not everyone deserves your truth. Your thoughts, your dreams, your reasons for doing what you do, they are yours, and not everyone is worthy of hearing them, because not everyone listens to understand. Some listen to argue, some listen to manipulate, some listen just to find a way to pull you down. And every time you explain yourself to these people, you feed them. You give them more ammunition to use against you. The difference between a conversation and a power struggle. A real conversation is built on respect. It's an exchange of ideas, a space where both sides listen, reflect, and grow. But when someone constantly questions your choices, not out of curiosity, but out of control, it's not a conversation. It's a power struggle. They want you to explain not because they care about your answer, but because they want to see how much they can shake you, how much they can make you question yourself, how much power they have over your mind. But here's what happens when you stop explaining. They lose control. They don't know how to handle silence. They don't know how to react when you stand firm in your truth without justification, because they thrive on your need for approval. Take that away and suddenly they have nothing. You don't owe them a single word. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause, ask yourself, is this person truly seeking to understand me, or are they just looking for a way to challenge me? If it's the latter, walk away. Not with anger, not with frustration, but with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who no longer hands their truth to people who will only poison it. Some people don't argue with you to understand, they argue to exhaust you, to wear you down, to make you feel like proving yourself is your responsibility. This is not an accident, it's a strategy. Manipulators operate on one simple principle. If they can make you doubt yourself, they can control you. They don't need to convince you they're right, they just need to make you question if you are. And once you start questioning yourself, they've won. How manipulators break you down? They don't attack you directly, that would be too obvious. Instead, they plant small seeds of doubt. They make passive-aggressive comments about your choices. They pretend to be confused by your decisions. They act like they're just trying to help, but somehow, every conversation leaves you feeling drained, uncertain, and defensive. Pay attention to their patterns. They will ask the same questions repeatedly, even when you've already answered them. Act like your logic makes no sense, even when it's crystal clear. Play the victim when you set boundaries, making you feel guilty for protecting your peace. These are not innocent behaviors, they are tactics. And if you keep explaining yourself, you fall into their game. Why they do it. Manipulators thrive on control. Your confidence is a threat to them. Your independence makes them uncomfortable, because if you stop seeking their approval, they lose the power they have over you. That's why they will never accept your truth. Because if they did, they couldn't control you anymore. How to take your power back. The moment you recognize these tactics, you neutralize them. You stop explaining. You stop defending. You stop giving them what they want. And when they realize they can no longer shake you, they will do the one thing they fear most. They will lose interest. Because without your reactions, they have nothing left to manipulate. That's how you win. Not by arguing, not by proving yourself, but by refusing to play their game at all. Have you ever explained yourself to someone only to realize they weren't really listening? They nodded, they smirked, they waited for their turn to speak, but they never actually heard you? That wasn't an accident. It was a lack of respect. When someone truly respects you, they don't make you beg to be understood. They don't force you to repeat yourself. And they don't dismiss your words like they mean nothing. Because here's the truth. Listening is a choice. And when someone refuses to listen, it's because they have already decided your voice doesn't matter. The silent weapon of disrespect. Disrespect isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's the way someone talks over you, the way they brush off your words, the way they pretend your feelings aren't real. They make you feel like your truth isn't valid unless they approve of it. That's why they keep pushing you to explain, not to understand, but to see how much control they still have. And the more you explain, the more you teach them that they can ignore you without consequences. What happens when you stop explaining? When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't respect you, something powerful happens. They get frustrated. They don't know how to handle silence. They don't know how to react when you no longer play along. They push harder, demand answers, try to bait you into defending yourself again. But when you hold your ground, they start to realize something terrifying. Their words no longer have power over you. And that's when the dynamic shifts. Respect is not demanded, it's enforced. If someone refuses to listen, stop talking. If someone doesn't respect your truth, stop offering it. Respect is not something you beg for. It's something you enforce by refusing to give your energy to those who refuse to value it. So the next time someone disregards your words, let your silence be your response. Not as an act of anger, but as a declaration of self-respect. Some people walk around carrying darkness inside them. Not the kind you can see, but the kind you can feel. You sense it in their words, in their energy, in the way they try to pull you into their chaos. These are the people who can't stand to see others grow, because growth reminds them of their own stagnation. They project their fears onto you. They mask their envy as concern. They disguise their bitterness as wisdom. But make no mistake, their negativity has nothing to do with you. They are fighting their own demons. The problem is they want you to fight them too. How negative energy infects you, negativity is contagious. It doesn't always come in obvious forms. Sometimes it sneaks in through conversations that seem innocent at first. A friend who always doubts your dreams, planting seeds of fear. A family member who reminds you of every past mistake, keeping you trapped in guilt. A colleague who downplays your success, making you question your worth. These people don't attack you outright. Instead, they slowly drain you, until one day you start seeing the world through their lens. Their doubts become your doubts. Their fears become your fears. And before you know it, you're living in their reality instead of creating your own. Why some people can't stand your light? Not everyone hates you, but some people hate what you represent. When you refuse to complain, they call you arrogant. When you refuse to complain, they call you arrogant. When you set boundaries, they call you selfish. When you chase your dreams, they call you unrealistic. It's not because you're wrong, it's because you remind them of what they refuse to become. Your confidence exposes their insecurities. Your progress highlights their excuses. Your light makes their darkness uncomfortable. And instead of facing their own demons, they'd rather pull you down into their world. Protect your energy without apology. You don't owe anyone access to your mind, your heart, or your peace. If someone is constantly pulling you into negativity, step back. Not to punish them, but to protect yourself. Because the truth is simple. You can't carry someone else's demons. You can only refuse to let them place them on you. Have you ever noticed that the more you explain yourself, the less people respect your words? It's because justification is a form of submission. Every time you feel the need to justify your choices, you are unconsciously asking for permission to be who you already are. But here's the hard truth. The people who truly understand, you don't need an explanation. And the people who demand one will never accept it. Over-explaining is a sign of self-doubt. The need to justify yourself doesn't come from strength. It comes from fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing people who were never truly meant to stay. But here's what most don't realize. Every time you explain yourself unnecessarily, you teach your mind that your decisions are not valid unless they are approved by someone else. And that is how people slowly steal your confidence, not by challenging you outright, but by making you second-guess yourself. Think about it. The strongest people don't over-explain. They don't argue for their worth. They don't beg to be understood. They let their actions speak. And because of that, they move differently. They carry themselves with a silent power that commands respect without demanding it. You owe no one an explanation for your growth. People will question you when you change. They will doubt you when you evolve. Not because you're wrong, but because your growth threatens their comfort. They want the old version of you, the one that was predictable, the one that stayed small, the one that always explained and justified every move. Because that version of you was easier to manipulate, but that version of you no longer exists. And that's why you must stop explaining yourself to people who only want to keep you trapped in who you used to be. Walk in certainty, not justification. The moment you stop explaining, you take your power back. You no longer seek permission to be yourself. You no longer waste energy proving yourself to people who have already made up their minds. So the next time someone demands an explanation for your choices, remember this. Strong people don't justify. They decide, they act, they move forward. And those who refuse to accept that, they are not your problem. What would happen if you simply stopped caring about what people think? Not in a reckless way, but in a way that sets you free. Most people live their entire lives imprisoned by the opinions of others. They hesitate, they shrink themselves, they trade their peace for approval that never truly comes. But here's the truth. You will never be free until you stop seeking validation from those who were never meant to give it. Because no matter what you do, some people will always disapprove. You could be the kindest, most disciplined, most successful person in the world, and still, someone will find a reason to criticize you. And if that's true, then why waste a single second trying to please them? The illusion of people's opinions. The fear of judgment is a powerful thing, but ask yourself, how many of these people actually matter? Most of the time, the ones who judge you the hardest are the ones who have accomplished the least. They don't criticize you because you're wrong. They criticize you because they are afraid to take the risks you take. They sit on the sidelines, watching, waiting, hoping you fail. Because if you succeed, it reminds them that they never even tried. But here is what you must understand. Their opinions are not real. They are projections, insecurities, reflections of their own doubts. And once you realize this, their words lose all power. When you stop caring, you become unstoppable. The moment you stop explaining yourself, stop defending yourself, stop caring what people think, you become a force, a person who moves with certainty, a person who doesn't hesitate. And that kind of confidence is rare. It's magnetic. It's the very thing that weak people fear the most, because they cannot control someone who no longer seeks their approval. So let them judge. Let them misunderstand. Let them whisper about you behind your back. None of it matters, because the truth is simple. You are not living for them. You never were. Some battles aren't worth fighting. Some conversations aren't worth having. Some people aren't worth convincing. There is power in knowing when to walk away, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because when you argue with people who refuse to understand you, you don't win, you lose. You lose your energy, you lose your peace. You lose time that could have been spent on things that actually move your life forward. Not every action deserves a reaction. The world is filled with people who want to provoke you. They thrive on your emotional response. They want to see you defend yourself, explain yourself, justify yourself, because the moment you do, they've pulled you into their game. But you don't have to play. When you refuse to react, you show them something they can't handle, that their words have no power over you. And nothing frustrates a manipulator more than being ignored. How walking away reclaims your power. Every time you walk away from a toxic situation, you send a message. I am not available for this. You are not available for negativity. You are not available for manipulation. You are not available for people who drain your soul. And when people realize they can no longer control you with their words, they panic. They try harder. They push more. But eventually they have no choice but to let you go. Your energy is a gift. Stop giving it away for free. Not everyone deserves access to you. Your energy, your focus, your peace, it's all valuable. And the more you waste it on people who don't respect it, the less you have for the things that actually matter. So walk away, not with anger, not with resentment, but with the quiet confidence of someone who no longer explains, no longer defends, and no longer entertains what doesn't serve them. That is real strength. That is real freedom. Silence is a weapon. A powerful one. Weak people talk too much. They explain, they defend, they argue, hoping to be understood. But strong people, they don't waste words on those who refuse to listen. Because silence is not just the absence of speech. It is the presence of control. When you stop explaining yourself, you shift the power dynamic. You make people uncomfortable. You force them to sit with their own thoughts, their own judgments, their own insecurities, without your energy to feed them. And that is where the real battle is won. Why people fear your silence. Most people aren't used to silence. They expect a reaction. They expect you to fight, to explain, to seek their approval. And when you don't, it unsettles them. Because silence forces them to deal with something they've been avoiding. themselves. They no longer have your words to twist, your emotions to manipulate, your energy to drain, and without that, they lose control. That's why some people will push harder when you go silent. They'll provoke you, insult you, do anything to make you break your composure. But if you hold your ground, they will eventually do the one thing they never wanted to do. They will reveal their true selves. Silence is not weakness, it's mastery. It takes discipline to remain silent when someone attacks you. It takes strength to hold back when every part of you wants to respond. But that is where true power lies. Because when you stop explaining, stop reacting, stop engaging in battles that don't deserve your time, you become untouchable. So let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand you. It is not your job to correct them. Your only job is to protect your energy, move forward, and let your actions speak louder than their words ever could. That is the power of silence. That is the power of true control. What if you stopped attaching yourself to people's opinions? What if you let go of the need to be understood? Most people suffer because they are too attached to approval, to validation, to proving themselves right. They let other people's thoughts dictate their emotions, their self-worth, even their actions. And that's why they feel trapped. But the moment you detach, you become free. Because, here's the truth, you do not control how others see you. You do not control their perception, their opinions, or their reactions. But you do control one thing, your response. And when you stop caring about what does not serve you, you step into a power that most people will never understand. Why emotional detachment makes you unstoppable. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being controlled by what you feel. When someone insults you, you don't react. When someone misunderstands you, you don't explain. When someone disrespects you, you walk away. Without a word, without anger, without looking back. This is what destroys manipulators. They thrive on your emotional investment. They need you to react, but when you detach, they lose all power over you. Detach and take back your life. Imagine how much peace you would have if you stopped explaining yourself, if you stopped justifying your actions, if you simply lived your life on your own terms without needing anyone else to approve of it. That is detachment. That is freedom. And the moment you embrace it, no one can hold power over you again. Peace is not given. It is created. It is built, protected, and defended against anything that threatens to steal it. But too many people trade their peace for things that don't matter, for arguments, for validation, for the approval of people who don't even respect them. And then they wonder why they feel drained, anxious, and lost. The truth is simple. If something costs you your peace, it is too expensive. And if someone constantly disrupts your inner world, they do not deserve access to you. Your mind is sacred. Stop letting everyone in. Think of your mind as a home. Would you let just anyone walk in, throw their negativity around, leave their toxic energy behind, and demand your attention? Of course not. But every time you engage with the wrong people, every time you defend yourself to someone who has already made up their mind, you invite chaos into your mind. And chaos does not deserve a seat at your table. Peace requires boundaries, not just intentions. You cannot just wish for peace. You must enforce it. That means cutting off conversations that drain your energy, ignoring those who seek to manipulate your emotions, walking away from toxic cycles without apology, because peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the refusal to participate in it. And once you realize that, once you stop entertaining what does not serve you, you will experience something most people never do. Real, unshakable freedom. Holding on is easy, letting go takes strength. Most people cling to relationships, opinions, and situations that no longer serve them, not because they want to, but because they fear what will happen if they let go. They fear being alone, they fear change, they fear the unknown. But here's the truth. You cannot move forward while holding on to what's holding you back. Letting go is not losing, it's choosing yourself. It's realizing that your peace is more important than keeping toxic connections alive. The pain of holding on. What happens when you hold on to something that is already gone? You suffer. You explain yourself to people who have already decided not to listen. You stay in situations that drain your energy, hoping they will change. You try to make people see your worth when they have already chosen to overlook it. And in the process, you lose yourself. But the moment you decide to let go of needing to be understood, of needing to be accepted, of needing closure from people who will never give it, you take your power back. Let go and watch your life change. The strongest people are not the ones who fight for what's already lost. They are the ones who walk away without fear, without regret, without looking back, because they know that what is meant for them will stay, and what is not will only block their path. So stop explaining, stop justifying, stop holding on to what was never meant to stay. Let go and step into the life you were meant to live. Why do so many people feel guilty for putting themselves first? Why do they hesitate to walk away from toxic situations, fearing they'll be seen as selfish? It's because society conditions people to believe that self-sacrifice that suffering for others is a sign of strength, that enduring mistreatment somehow makes you a better person. But here's the truth. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary, because if you don't prioritize your own well-being, no one else will. The lies that keep you stuck. Manipulative people will always make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. They will call you selfish when you stop catering to their needs. They will call you heartless when you refuse to be controlled. But ask yourself, who benefits when you put yourself last? It's always the ones who take advantage of you, the ones who expect you to carry the emotional weight of every situation, the ones who drain you, guilt you, and demand from you, but give you nothing in return. And that is why you must stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself, your life, your rules. The moment you decide to stop explaining yourself, the moment you refuse to justify your choices, the moment you let go of the guilt that's been forced onto you, that is the moment you take your life back. You were not born to be a prisoner of other people's expectations. You were not put on this earth to explain your worth to those who refuse to see it. You are here to live, to grow, to evolve without apology. So choose yourself, not with guilt, not with hesitation, but with the certainty that you deserve to live life on your own terms. What if nothing could shake you anymore? What if no opinion, no insult, no judgment had the power to disturb your peace? That is what happens when you become untouchable. Not in the sense of arrogance, but in the sense of unshakable inner strength. Most people are controlled by their emotions. They react to everything. They let criticism hurt them, let rejection break them, let other people's opinions define them. But when you stop explaining yourself, when you detach from needing to be understood, when you no longer seek approval from those who don't matter, you become unstoppable. How to become immune to negativity, the secret to true strength, is simple. You decide what matters and what doesn't. Someone insults you, you ignore it. Someone questions your choices, you don't explain. Someone doubts you, you let your actions do the talking. Because the truth is, your energy is sacred, and wasting it on meaningless battles only slows you down. When you own your power, no one can take it from you. The moment you stop letting people control your emotions, they lose all power over you. They can judge you, but it won't affect you. They can misunderstand you, but it won't bother you. They can try to bring you down, but you will rise again and again, because you are no longer playing their game. You are walking your own path with clarity, with confidence, with complete control over yourself. And that is the definition of being untouchable. This is it. The moment you decide, will you keep explaining yourself to those who will never understand you, or will you step into the life you were meant to live? Because everything changes the second you realize you owe no one an explanation. Not for your choices, not for your growth, not for becoming the person you were always meant to be. The world will always have opinions. People will always judge. Some will love you, some will hate you, and many won't care at all. But none of it matters. You are the only one who needs to approve of your life. Think about how much time you wasted trying to explain yourself, trying to get people to see your heart, your vision, your truth. And for what? For them to misunderstand you anyway? You do not need their validation. You do not need their permission. You only need your own decision to walk away from negativity, to stop explaining, to live on your terms unapologetically. Your freedom starts now. The moment you stop explaining, stop justifying, stop seeking approval, you step into a power most people will never experience because you are finally free. Free to move, free to grow, free to live a life that is fully yours. So take that freedom, own it, protect it, and never again waste a second trying to convince someone of your worth. The ones who matter will see it. The ones who don't never did. And now you rise.